Now let's talk about two strikers that we've been linked to, and a couple of deals that look likely not to go through, but could still go through. And those teams are not budging on their transfer fees. Let's start with the Gyokeres. Now, Gyokeres was my first option. He was the player I wanted even before he got linked to Saskia and all those guys. I was like, this guy had an incredible season. Let's get him. So according to the reports from the Sun, as we always say, not the best source, but this is what they've had to say.
Yeah.
Sporting will remain firm on their valuation of Arsenal target VIKTOR Gyokeres, with the intention of selling the other first team stars this summer instead. So Sporting are not desperate, Cozy, and the original valuation is obviously the release clause, which is around 101 million pounds, which is around 110 million euros. So if you want Gyokeres, you're going to have to pay that money, 110 million euros. Now on this podcast later on, we'll talk about the Girona striker, but what's your what are you thinking about this situation, the striker situation? Are you okay with just getting, a 40 million striker, 50 million striker? Are you like, let's go for 110 million Gyokeres because they're not budging on their price? They're not desperate to sell him. We're not really going to wait up until August. We want to get a striker right now before preseason. What did you do with Gyokeres, and do you think it's worth that money?
100 million is it's a protection fund. It's a protection fee. It's like when you wake up in the morning, the people who apply sunscreen, and you apply sunscreen to your skin to protect you from the sun. It's the same thing the way Barcelona do it with the likes of Pedri, Gavi, young players. They insert £1 billion release clauses in their contracts. But the truth is, when Barcelona are ready to sell these players, they are not going to sell them for 1 billion. So I think it's a bit of an overvaluation, but it's a protection for Sporting Lisbon, who are at the moment caught in between two worlds. A world where they think this is the summer we sell, and therefore let's wait a little bit longer to see how many offers we are going to get. And a world where they're like, how about we keep him for one more season? Maybe we could try to replicate what we did by winning the Portuguese championship, right? I don't know what their ambitions are, but I think they're between those two worlds. But I think the dominant world for them is going to be 50 GA. This is your best opportunity to sell. Like Benfica did it with Darwin Núñez. Someone is giving you 70 to 80 million or 90 million. You've got to sell. This is your golden opportunity. Imagine if Darwin Núñez has had 2 bad seasons at Benfica and not Liverpool. Is anyone giving you 80 million? Definitely not. Is anyone really thinking about signing him? Like, is anyone really going to sign Dusan Vlahovic this summer? I'll tell you something. Definitely not, right? So I think they are willing to sell. Now, the striker situation at Arsenal, for me, it revolves around opportunities, actually. And I think I kind of believe what Ghana Blog said a couple of hours ago, around 48 or 72 hours, when he said that Arsenal are still scouting for those opportunities on the market for a striker. They're not desperate for one, with Kai Havertz set to play up top. So it looks like if Gyokeres drops and his price drops to 72 million euros or 75 million euros, Arsenal could pounce on it. If it doesn't come out, if it doesn't come down in terms of pricing, Arsenal will not actually what? Arsenal will not do the deal. And I support Arsenal 100%. Don't go for 120 million euros because it is not the value of the player, it is the protection for Sporting Lisbon. This release clause was inserted almost a year ago, when this guy had not become this good, when this boy had not become as excellent as he is, right? And that shows you that they had what they did there was to look at a talent, look at his prospect, and they say, we want to protect ourselves. If we want to get 70 million pounds or 75 million pounds of Gyokeres' sell, we must protect ourselves by saying he's got a release clause of 120 million euros or 110 or 100 million pounds, right? And that is what is happening at the moment. So I wouldn't advocate for Arsenal to pay that much or trigger that release clause. I would say if you cannot get a good option on the market right now, and you can really work on other areas, there's so many wingers. We want a winger. There's so many good midfielders, attacking and defensive. We need one in each position, and there are also so many left backs. I was watching Milos Kakes for Hungary the other time. I thought it was a little bit shaky. He's young, he's just 21, but I thought there's a player there. There's real quality there. So if we can work on our positions, other positions, and work on them really well, absolutely, let's work on a striker next summer, right? Because it doesn't make sense for you to bring in a guy that is very expensive. You're not going to start him. Kai Havertz is getting better and better and better. It would be a little bit of a gamble for us to do 120 million euros on Gyokeres. I wouldn't risk it to that extent.
His numbers were absolutely astonishing. 43 goals, 15
incredible.
assists, 58 goal contributions. That's why I'm like, I don't think they're going to drop it to 70 million euros. The most or the least they can drop it to is maybe, I'd say, 90 million euros or something. So maybe take 20 million euros off that.
The thing with him is that who wants him? That's going to be a very, very important discussion in this war. Who really wants Gyokeres? Yes, he's got 50 GA, but do clubs really consider him attainable? That's number one. And secondly, if they consider him attainable, do they consider him fit for their projects? That's another thing. Chelsea are running a new project that we have not seen with Maresca. Tottenham Hotspur are running a project with that we have seen with Ange Postecoglou. Arsenal running a project. So literally everyone is running a project. There is no one club that is running football for the sake of it. There's no one club that is playing football for the sake of it. Everyone is running a project, and they're really investing a lot of tactical energy into their setups. So does Gyokeres fit into any club setup for them to go, he is the piece that we want? Like Declan Rice for Arsenal. Mikel said, he is the guy I want. 100 million, pay up. He is the guy I want. So are we going to see 3-4 clubs wanting Gyokeres? I can guarantee you this. No. They might. I think the whole of Europe admires him, but I'm not sure when we are going to see 5 clubs bid for him. And I won't be surprised for VIKTOR Osimhen to move to a club like Arsenal, or VIKTOR Osimhen to move to a club like Saudi Arabia, and then Napoli have some 65 million and they go and sign Gyokeres for 65 million in August. Why? Because we've seen these deals happen, and it's about who wants him, right? And this is your time to sell. If you went in there and talked to Sporting and told them, this is your best chance to sell. A 50 GA striker right now at 25, really, you have 3-4 clubs interested. You have no bids on the table yet, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Arsenal have a bid or have interest, real interest from Reece Nelson. We have real interest in ESR. Man United have real interest from in Casemiro. You don't even have real concrete interest in VIKTOR Gyokeres at the moment, and that will send Sporting Lisbon panicking a little bit. He's good, but why aren't we seeing 9 bids in? Why don't we see Liverpool trying to negotiate a swap deal maybe with Darwin Núñez, or trying to add another striker in Gyokeres? Why don't we see Barcelona trying to upgrade their game with Gyokeres? Why aren't we seeing this rush? It's because clubs know it's better you scout him for 3 years than him costing you 5 years. So at the moment, I think his price will come down. It's all about time. July, I think that is when most of the clubs that are really saying 100 million are going to start saying, let's negotiate. August, that's when we are going to see a couple of clubs going, okay, Gyokeres, let's talk about 80 million euros and see how much you're willing to pay up front, and talk about the payment structure.
If it's around 85 million euros, I'd be willing to pay it. I've watched him, and people could say it's one lucky season. I think he had a really good season, though. I really love his finishing. His runs in behind, left foot, right foot, and I don't think it's a one lucky season. And obviously, the goals plus the assists, as we always say with Kozi, you can have strikers who will just get 50 goals and 0 assists in a season.
Yeah.
you can get forwards who are going to get 18 assists and 5 goals, 6 goals, like a Nico Williams. But if you get someone who can combine the two and get double figures in terms of both of them, I think that's the kind of player Arteta loves. The players like Jesus and Odegaard, players who can get 10 goals, 10 assists, and I think he fits into that. But I don't think anyone would pay that money. Just like Osimhen, I think if they don't take their prices down, they would end up staying in those teams. And I don't know if those teams want them. I don't know if Sporting are desperate to sell him and they want to keep him anyway, like Sesko and Leipzig wanted to keep Sesko. I'm not sure. But if you feel like it's too expensive, Cozy, Ivan Toney is cheaper. The latest on Ivan Toney from Alex Cook. Brentford will not sell Ivan Toney for any less than 60 million this summer. He has been linked to a number of Premier League clubs. So Sporting are not budging on the 110 million euro release clause, and Brentford are not budging on the 60 million deal in terms of selling him, nothing less than 60 million. So would you feel like, okay, we can't get Osimhen, we can't get these expensive strikers, Toney's the only option left, we wanted him a couple of years ago, 1 year ago, let's just pay that 60 million, let's try and negotiate it to 50 million, maybe 45 million plus 10 million add-ons later on? Or are you just not interested in him? Because we were told a couple of weeks ago that Arteta and Edu actually start with him and they did not like him. So in terms of character and all that, I don't know if it's because of the wages as well. The word was they did not like him. So do you think that affects us really bad, that, we can't really get him because of his character and stuff? It doesn't really fit into what you're trying to do right now? Or would you be like, okay, let's just put that to the side. We can't get any cheaper striker than this. Let's go for Ivan Toney. Premier League experience, let's get him.
He's going to make a move. And for me, his next club is already decided. I think he will end up at Tottenham Hotspur. I feel it. Like the way James Maddison, the way Richarlison, I just feel it. I just feel like he's going to take that path. And I see him at Tottenham in a white shirt. Now, why is he still on the market? That's the only question. Why is he still on the market? I mean, every club said, we want a striker, we want a forward. There is your guy. I think the only reason as to why he's still on the market is that 1 year that he spent out, and a couple of clubs were like, we are not really sure. I think most of the clubs right now are going, we are not sure whether he'd really recovered mentally well from that almost 9 months or 10 months without football. Is he okay? Is he mentally okay? Is he back in shape? When we saw him during the later parts of the season, I don't think he was as convincing as the Ivan Toney we know. And obviously, they were first with a couple of injuries, Brian Bemo in and out, and then he had to play with, Neil Maupay as well. But I kind of feel like there was something lacking, right? But for me, I've said this before and I said again, his attitude, I don't understand it. I don't really know the exact extent to which his attitude is a big problem. But what I know is that he's worked with Thomas Frank, and he is a striker that has scored 20 goals in a Premier League season where we had Erling Haaland and Harry Kane on top. And he was among the top scorers in the Premier League season. What I also know is that he is a player that can provide Arsenal with something that we do not have, something that Xavi Simons cannot bring, something that Sesko cannot bring. His physicality, his energy, his center forward play is immensely, immensely good. Also, I know that he is a clinical finisher, and I also know that he can score important goals for any system that he plays in. I'm going to leave Arteta's opinion and verdict because I don't know where it comes from. Probably I've seen something on the 177th page and they're like, this is what we don't want, right? But for me, I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Ivan Toney as one of the strikers that should be making a big move this summer, possibly even to Manchester United, because they've been heavily linked with him. Now, are they going to really get 60 million? They know they are not going to get him. They're not going to get 60 million for him because in January, they failed to tie him down to a longer term deal. That if they wanted 60 million, they should have tied him down to a longer term deal.
I think he refused.
Exactly. Secondly, The players already said he's ready for the next move. This was before him coming back to football, and then even after the end of the season, he said, "I'm ready for that big next move." He's gone with the England national squad for the Euros. That's another kind of big boost for him. I'm not going to lie. Brentford are going to get 40 to 45 million for Ivan Toney, with a couple of promises on top, maybe a couple of add-ons, for the future, and they will settle for that. And he's going to sign for a big club, if you consider Tottenham a big club.
That makes sense. I do think Tottenham would actually end up getting him as well. Now, the last question on Toney is that season where he scored 20 plus goals and he's banging them in and he scored against us at the Emirates. That time, how much do you think he was worth at that time? After that season?
70 million. 70 million.
What about now after a season where he missed almost the entire season and he finished the season not on a great note and everything that has gone on? How much do you think it has dropped by?
40 million.
So now it's 40 million. Wow. So It's gone down 30 million. So if it's 40 million, you would take him.
I can't lie. Even at 48, 49, even 50 million. For me, when I look at Toney, and I know people are looking at a spell where he's been out, but he's not been out because he's injured. I mean, you want to stay away from players with such problems as much as you can. Like, you look at the Sandro Tonali, he's missing the Euros, he's missed a lot of football for Newcastle. You want to stay away from them as much as possible. But if he's worked on his problems and he's put them behind him, Ivan Toney is a striker that many clubs do not have but need.